Okay, new Mishnah, in the middle of Tezvav Amid Beis. Okay, so we're getting into the real fundamentals of a mechitza. Shayora shechansa bebika, the caravan encamps in a open field. The kifu clay behemos. You gotta set up camp, and from a halachic point of view, then you've got to establish a rishus. You've got to be surrounded by walls in order to be rishus yachid that you can carry around. So what do? They kifu clay behema. He took the vessels of an animal that were big and strong and sturdy, and you if you surrounded yourself with these different vessels and different things that the behema uses, and here on the diagram, what was that 222? Yeah. So there you got even a camel there. Okay, so there they want to make it a circle. Okay, whatever. So that's a valid mechitza. Okay, metal metocha. So you're allowed to carry within that area, circle, square, rectangle, doesn't really matter. The idea is you're encircled and you're surrounded by walls. That's the key thing. The key things you need is that the fence should be 10 tfachim high, so whether it's a saddle or a blanket or whatever else you want to use. We'll see other options later on in the Gemara today. It's all valid as long as it's 10 tfachim high. But you can't have more opening than closure. So in that picture, right, you've got the gaps between those bases. I'm not sure what those. That's really okay. That's later on. So we'll need our picture for a little bit later on. So that's different items that we will actually be referring to. You can't have more open, even though there are gaps there, but you clearly can see that the physical part, I don't know if it's so clear, but the physical part represents more than the open parts. As long as the enclosure is more than the opening, then you're in business. Right? One more time. He says, Uvachle gvoya asar tfachim. Okay. Veloyi pirtos, we have to be very exact with our language now, because you'll see it's going to be a big issue momentarily. Veloyi pirtos yiseres albinyan. So the actual language of the Mishnah is you can't have more opening than enclosure. Okay, you can't have more. Sounds like, as we'll see in a second, 50-50 would be good. The language is you can't have more pirtos than you have binyan. Okay, and finally, kol pirtos shehi ke'eser amos mutaros. If you do have this, you fulfill the quality of more structure than open air. You've done that, but there's another factor. Any pirza that's 10 amis mutarin, that's okay. As we've mentioned many times, you can go up to 10 amis in a structure, in a surrounding, with mechitzas that represent more enclosure than opening. That's all fine if it's up to 10 amis, the opening. Okay, bnei shuka pesach, because that's viewed as a sort of a doorway to the domain, and that's fine. However, yasmikan, the minute you get to a more than 10 am opening, and again the hotels, the parking lots to motels have a lot of these issues. We want to carry in the parking lot or in the area before outside your room. So you very often have to be careful on the entranceway. Is that entranceway wider than 10 amis, which that negates the whole thing. Okay, if you don't have a tourist of Pesach and you have a big gap, unless you make an Eruv there and you close it up, it's going to be a problem. Yes, and we can't also. So if it's up to 10 amas, it's good, but if it's more than 10 amas, you got yourself a problem. Okay, Rashi, v'lo pirtzas yiseres al binyan, afil wein pirtzas ketanos psuchos me'eser. Okay, even if they're small, less than 10 amas, that's only the 10 amma issue is only about the one opening. But you can't have, if you have more open space, then the 10 amas thing doesn't matter. Then it doesn't matter whether it's more than 10 amas, less than 10 amas. You could be way less than 10 amas, but at the net result of all of your openings, that there's more opening than enclosure, then it's no good. Kol pirtza shi ke'esem mutaris b'nei shika pesach v'shei b'oimed rav aleim. Okay, so again, he makes the point again. If the pirtza is up to 10 amas, if the break is up to 10 amas, it's mutter because we view that as a sort of a doorway. Okay, again, he qualifies the point, but you need to have more standing space collectively over the entire area than you have open space. More closure than you have opening. Okay, yes, mikana surah, but if you have a bigger opening than 10 amis, okay, then the area becomes usher to carry in. Pirta achas oseres kol hekef. That one break of more than 10 amis totally negates your ability and prohibits you from carrying in the entire area. Fil kuli oimed can first b'rayis come on, even if it's completely surrounded. Okay, as we've said. So, in other words, so you have different ways of messing yourself up. You can mess yourself up by having certainly more opening than closure will be one way of messing yourself up, and another way of messing yourself up as far as your Rishus HaYachid and your enclosures that allow you to carry in that Rishus HaYachid. But even if you are more closed than open, if you have an opening more than 10 amis, then you're going to be stuck as well. Okay, those are the two basic things you got to worry about: the parts ka'imate factor and the more than 10 amis opening factor. Two different ways of destroying the enclosure of the Rishus HaYachid, which would render you a Carmelist, and as a Carmelist, you would not be allowed to carry more than 4 amis in that area, even though you got a lot of things around you, you don't have 4 walls, and that's what you need. Okay, so ready for this famous issue. We've been sort of dancing around this issue for a long time, and now this is where the actual guts of the issue takes place. Itmar. We learned as follows. Paretz Qaimet. It's fascinating. You think, I guess you probably can make this point many times in Shas, probably hundreds of times. In other words, there's a machlokes Republican and Eruvin Radio Yeshua. It's interesting that, what was the assumption before we got to this point? Pretty fundamental issue. What do you do with 50-50? But that's the way it is. Somehow, as a Messiah, got to a certain point, it became unclear, and then the Amoraim, at a later point, stood up and said this is the way it is, and it was not clear. See, Itmar, we learned as follows. But
the truth is, this is an unusual case.
That's 50-50, you mean?
Right. I mean,
you have to really mamish measure it out. Yeah, I hear. Well, because we have things maybe that you can buy that are literally, measured exactly. But in those days, yes, it would be unusual to have exactly 50-50. You're saying that's why maybe it wasn't spoken about. Okay, I hear. Okay, fine. So parrots come, but whatever. You have to assume probably it came up, but it didn't. It wasn't like a big issue until this particular point in time. But whatever it is, I hear your point. Itmar, we learned as follows: parrots kaimate. What happens if it's mamash 50-50? If you have that rare case where you literally have 50% standing wall, 50% open space. So what do we do in that situation? It's not the same lumdus, but you do have, the same issue by sukkah. When you have a schach, we'll actually touch upon sukkah, but what's 50-50, as far as that is concerned. A lot of times when you hear the word rove, which way is it? Is it rove bad you can't have, or the rove good you must have? Which one is it? Sit in my parts made Rav Papa Amamutter. Rav Papa says it's fine. As long as you don't have majority negative, 50-50 actually is considered Rishus HaYachid, and you can carry being surrounded by 50% wall and 50% airspace. Rav Huna Radio Yeshua Omer Asr. Rav Huna Radio Yeshua says no way. Rav Papa Mamuter Hachya Agmei Rachman Moshe. Rav Papa says it's okay because this is what was taught to Moshe Rabbeinu. So now we see the core of the issue is the halacha Moshe Sinai. What was the exact nature of that halacha Moshe Sinai? Okay, right. So you have the diagram. Okay, what's on the right? Looks like a box with a surprise in it.
Yesterday.
Oh, that was yesterday. Okay, sounds good. Okay, that's exactly. Mamish looks like the LA style. Those white thick coffins in it they make. Okay, yeah. So let's see here. So Rav Papa says it's asur. Rav Papa says it's mutter. Rav Huna Rishus says it's asur. Rav Papa says mutter. Why? Because Hachiyagmei Rachman Moshe like Tifrat Ruba. The Aloha Moshe Messina was couched in the terminology, and the message was clear: don't have more open space. That was what HaKadosh Baruch Hu communicated to Moshe Rabbeinu. This is Mamash gets back to Sinai. Rav Ravuna Ber Yeshua Amar Aser. He says, no, I'm sorry. If it's 50-50, it's no good. Because Moshe. This was what HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu. Gedor Ruba. Fence in the majority. Fence in the majority. So if you're fencing in 50-50, it's not the majority. So exactly what was communicated to Moshe Rabbeinu is exactly the dispute 1,500, 2,000 years, 1,500 years later. Okay. Or so. Yeah. So let's see here. Tanan. Let's catch up on the Rashis here. The entire area was made this way. So this is not like one side or one wall. Rashi's saying that it's a collective surrounding that you have to calculate. So even if, let's say, one side is more opening, that doesn't negate that whole enclosure. As long as it's completely around, you're more closed and opened, then that would be okay. And as long as you don't have something more than 10 amos, right? 10 amos is a different negation of the way things can work, of the way it has to work. So what's the lumdus behind it?
Rashi, Article brings down the Rashi in Sukkah that it's the entire enclosure that consists of alternating sections of a wall and open space. It's exactly that way. That picture is exact. It's that way, exactly all the way around.
Okay. So what do you
say? 3 amos of fence, 3 amos of opening, 3 amos of fence, 3 amos, exactly that same way all the way around.
And let's say it wasn't.
He's saying that is the case. That's what they're talking about. That's the disagreement.
Okay, but I'm saying, I think my diak is still valid. My diak is saying that the reason why we're not arguing, let's say, by one wall is because you don't just calculate one wall. You calculate, as if the other side had been more parrots than Omed or more Omed than parrots, then that would have tilted the balance. And that, in other words, you don't say you don't have a wall 50-50. In other words, the whole machlokus is only in a case where this issue goes all the way around it. But you can,
besides going all the way around, each partition has to be bounded by an exact space of the same amount, of the same width.
Yeah, or is it just the totality had to be 50-50?
That's that. Take a look at what the article brings down Rashi in Sukkah.
Okay, but what's his language? I'm just curious. Does he say what any other way doesn't work?
The entire enclosure consists of alternating sections of wall and open space of equal length.
Okay, so I'm just saying. So you could say the entire section. So the way I'm making the point is, I hear what you're saying, and I'm not saying that's not the case. But the question is, what's the relevance of that point? I think the main message is that it's all the way around. That you can't look at one wall and then say, oh, you blew it because you have parrots koimed on one side, so you're done. You can rebound by making it more on the other side, and that can save the day, or vice versa. Okay, but I don't think there's a different issue if you didn't have it,
Right, if some of these boards were 3, but on the other side they were 7.
Right, I think, right, I hear. Ephraim's saying maybe not. Ephraim's saying it seems from Rashi. So the question is, what's the real message of Rashi? Is it that it's got to be this way exactly proportionally, or that it's got to go all the way around to keep the issue, focused in the fact that it's your total surrounding area as opposed to any one side? Okay,
which would also explain why they weren't sure what the halacha was, because how many times do you have something exactly like that?
Right, I hear. Okay, let's see. It's something to definitely food for thought. I'm getting hungry already. Okay, so let's see here. So next Rashi, as we said earlier, that the whole concept of mechitzas and all of the details regarding what's considered valid mechitza is all halach Moshe Misinai. And as such, you got to go back to the source. What's the deal? Okay, so we are done. That was not too much Rashi's on that. Okay, let's go weiter. Tanan. Okay, back to the Gemara. Tanan. We learned in the Mishnah. Let's see our Mishnah. We already, let the cat out of the bag. That when we read the Mishnah, we sort of saw the diak staring us right between the eyes. The mamish hits you very obviously. Tanan says the Mishnah, Lo yehi pirtzas yiseres al binyan. The Mishnah says you can't have more open space than you do have closed space. Hokabinyan. Clearly, the message is if you didn't have more open space, but it was like the closed space, means it was 50-50. There wasn't more opening mutter. Okay, so it seems like Rav Papa is right on the mark based on the Mishnah. Rav Papa has a strong support. So Gemara says, not necessarily. Like Tema HaKabinyan mutter. Don't make the deal that if it would be like the binyan, it'll be mutter. La'ema in binyan yesel apirtza mutter. Read it, but if it's more closure than opening, then it's mutter. Don't read it. Don't make the diak 50-50. Is mutter. It needs to be more closed than open. That's when it's mutter. What? Avol kabinyan mai aser. But if it's 50-50, it's tak aser. Well, don't you think there would be a better way of saying that if the message of the Mishnah is 50-50 is aser? Yachi lisnei lo yepirtzos kabinyan. Then the Mishnah should have said you shouldn't have the opening like the closing. If like Rav Huna Breda of Yeshua, then shouldn't the message have been 50-50 is not good, as opposed to saying 51-49 airspace is bad? Well, why not tell me the bigger chiddush and that 50-50 is also bad? By saying 51-49 airspace is bad, clearly the indication is that 50-50 is okay. Okay, so you know what? Kasha, you got me. It's interesting that this is only seen as a kasha. Clearly, the mess when you see a kasha, even a tufta rarely, gets rebounded and comes back to life. Kashas definitely are not as strong as tuftas, and the message is you checked me, but it's not quite a checkmate. Okay, at least not yet. So we've got a proof, but it's not an ironclad proof to the point where we're going to close up shop and wrap up the Gemara. So let's see. Let's see Rashi. No Rashis. Okay, the next Rashi is in the next sugya Toshma, the next proof. So come in here. So now we're going to try to prove this issue. We've got one proof already, but we're not done yet because clearly we see Rav Huna ben Yeshua still being a valid opinion. So let's try more. Toshma, come in here. If a person covers his sukkah, so we're now back in sukkah, and you cover your sukkah with these spits, these long rods, narrow rods, or baruch hasamita, or let's say the sides of the bed that were all. These are not kosher. These are not kosher schach because they're kalim. These are things that are made as vessels already. We know that one of the rules of schach is that it cannot be mekabel tumah. Some kli is able to mekabel tumah. So these are invalid methods of covering your sukkah. So you've got to now, find those palm fronds at the last minute, like you have so many Jews running around Erev Sukkot looking to finish up this sukkah. So, but it'll l'chora as you look in 218, right? These because of the nature of these spits or these bedposts, that they're proportional. So you have half covered and with these illegal schach, and the other half right now open, waiting for schach to be put in. Very similar to those, you see a lot of these sukkahs that have these built-in beams, not beams, whatever, 2x4s that are nailed in, but there's an opening between them, and use, shtup in the schach in between them, so in a perfect world, you really should have more schach than you have those nailed in, 2x4s or whatever. So let's see. So okay, so you've decided for whatever reason you were motivated to cover your sukkah with these illegal, proportionally distanced items like spits or like sides of bed. But if you have airspace equal to the actual spit, and you put in proper schach in that airspace, then kshera, right? So if you've left space equal to them, like them, kshera, then it's good. And you've of course filled it up. You can't just leave the airspace and have airspace. You have enough airspace, and you bought schach and you filled in the schach, as you see again in 218. So the aleph is yaruch hasamita. Those are the sides of the beds, and the lines there are the schach, which is fully enclosed, even though it looks like there's space there in between. But that's referring that filling up completely with schach. So leaving no gaps whatsoever. Sounds like what you have is a perfect 50-50 situation. It's kosher. Sounds again supporting Rav Papa that 50-50 is good. Okay, even though maybe the issues might be different, but we're assuming, that the results, the bottom line would be the same. If 50-50 is good by sukkah, 50-50 is good by the fencing as well. So Chamaskina on the more answers, nice try, but that's not exactly the case. It's slightly different than the case. What's the difference? Is where the amount you left available, the open space, moves smoothly in. It's not like, because you imagine if you want to have if let's say those olives are not, the boards are not kosher. So you go buy kosher schach, exactly the width of the olive. So if you want to put it in, you're going to have to shtup it in, right? Exactly. You're going to make it real tight because it's exactly the same space. And it's not going to, it's not going to get in so easily. The case is, no, it would get in easily. Why would it get in easily? Because you left a little bit more space between each olive than the actual space of the schach. Meaning, so that when you fill it in, you will have more schach per open space than you have per board. Because if it goes in very easily, clearly the message is it's not mamish exactly 50-50. So one more time, when the things come in and out relatively easily. Well, why would that be the case? Well, you could make it exact. I mean, these are things that you measure, right? These are things that are not, it's not one of those impossible, things to do. It's not like how many stars there are in the sky. There is, you measure it out, you make it. Why would the case not be exactly the way the brisa sounds like it is, which is exact?
What's going in and out?
What?
What's going in and out?
The kosher schach goes in and out easily.
So not the spits.
No, just you need.
Right, the spits would be another kli, right? So the spits are
fixed. Let's say for argument's sake, they're 3 tfachim, right?
Wait, no, I'm saying, but like the spits are now replacing the boards, right? We're saying
no. The spit or the board are both non-kosher,
right? So
it doesn't matter; those are interchangeable words. So let's keep up on the boards, right? The aleph or the bedpost, let's say, right? So you left the space so that when you got kosher schach, that kosher schach goes in smoothly. It's not tight.
Okay, so you just left more space.
Exactly. Yeah. So and you left, and that space allows at the end of the day when that sukkah gets covered completely with schach on the open end, that you've got more schach than you have open space, and then that's why you're good to go. This does not disprove Rav Huna ben Yeshua. But the Gemara says, but why, come on, why would that be the case? Isn't it possible to make it exact? And if the Brisa is reflecting that kind of a case, doesn't that seem to be what the case is about? Isn't your answer quite dochik? No, but Madef, no, it's not that dochik, because the case is, yes, it is. It's not that unusual, and that's what he did. He left more open space than closed space, and the Brisa is referring to that kind of a situation. Let's do Rav's answer, then we'll do the Rashi. Rav has a different approach, a little bit of a easier approach in a certain sense. Although it's a chiddush here too. Rav Amar, Nesunim Erev Noisim Shesi Nosim Erev. So the answer is that it's not that picture. It's going across in the other direction. Okay, if one's horizontal, the other is vertical. If one's vertical, the other is horizontal. So, but if you cover the entire schach, if you cover the entire roof of that sukkah on the other direction with the schach, so by definition, while yes, the airspace versus the kosher airspace versus the non-kosher airspace is taka 50-50, right? Because we're not going with the first answer. We're going with that it was exact. But don't you have more schach than you have spits? Don't you have more schach than you have boards total? Obviously you do, because I cover the airspace and I cover the spits with my schach. So I put the palm fronds completely across in the other direction, not fitting it into the space, just literally covering it. Okay, I'm not sure if I don't know why that picture, doesn't give you the sense that it covers.
Well, if it's exactly even, and here you have pieces long enough to hang over on each side.
Exactly. I don't know why it just doesn't make it one long thing that covers the entire thing. That's what I would have shown, but whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is that, yes, the fact that I'm covering the boards means that now the chiddush is that since I'm more than you, even though in terms of shade, I'm giving you only 50%, but I still am able to overwhelm you because I represent more of my physical being than you do. Okay, because the total, let's say, I don't know, I'm 50 cubic, feet of total space is represented by the board, by the non-kosher boards. 55 feet of total space is covered by the kosher schach. So even though in terms of shade versus non-shade, kosher shade versus non-kosher shade, it's 50-50, but I can demolish you by my fact that I'm more than you, and my roiv is able to beat you. Big chiddush. Okay, let's see Rashi. So in the middle of the Rashi there, because there was a dot there. Right, where are we? Yeah, Shafudin. So about a third of the way up. So both these spits and these bed boards are posuvashach lefi shekalim hein, because they are utensils. These are things that are used by people as finished products. And once it's a finished product, that's it. You're done. That's why all these clearing about all these the wall coverings, all different types of things you want to use for schach. The question is it a functional keli or is it not? That's really one of the main issues. Umakabel tumah, and as such, since it's a keli, it's makabel tumah. Utnan, and we learned in the Mishnah in Sukkah, kol davar makabel tumah emisachachin bay. One of the prerequisites is that it can't be makabel tumah. Aruchos ashpundash. Okay, if you leave enough space, exactly to the extent that you have the non-kosher schach to use kosher schach, then it's good. Then the sukkah is kosher. Alma, what do you see from here? Porridge made mutter. Now, when you have you have just as much opening as you have a closed area, that's mutter. The acha pasuk kosher, because here too by the schach it's 50-50. Vishari. Okay, and yet the Mishnah says it's a valid sukkah. The kasha nami hol Rav Huna. This also represents a kasha on Rav Huna. What are you saying, Rav Huna, about this idea of 50-50 being no good? This seems to indicate 50-50 is good. The answer is b'nichnas v'yotzei. Shei shfud yochel ikones v'lotzes berevach shebenitayim. Okay, well, he looks at it the other way. Then there's in removing. Does the shvut, when you want to remove the shvut, does it come out easily? Or does it come out, and it comes out easily? So it must be because you have more airspace than not between each shvut, each spit. It's not exact, and therefore there's room for things to flow out very easily and smoothly, because it's a little bit bigger than 50-50. Because right now says Rashi, the Gemara is of the opinion the Haida Kommentaris b'nichlas v'yotzei hachi Kommentaris. The Gemara Rashi is explaining. The Gemara assume the answer is in this concept of it goes in and out easily is like this: the whole kamoisim b'nichlas v'yotzei okay, that any time when you get a situation where it's 50, where it's like that, that's the way it is. The kol kamoisam b'nichlas v'yotzei. All of these similar parallel situations are cases where the things go in and out very easily. The ein derech l'tzamtzem, because it's not the way to make it exact, right? So when you have these cases, a lot of times you go out and on these patios, your backyard, right? So they don't have a completely shaded area; they have it, broken up. So. And the way they would make it is not 50-50, but sort of 51-49 kind of thing, more opening than closure. L'kach parich, the Gemara therefore asks, come on, that's the way it normally is. What, it's normally 51-49 and not 50-50? V'efshel tzamtzem, u'lechavein, shlo yerevach yoser v'anan kamoisentan. You certainly can do it. It's not a difficult thing to make it mamish exactly equidistant away from each other, and therefore why would it be that this is the way it would work? And the Mishnah does say kamosa. So if every single time you did it, there was always 51-49. I understand, but why it's not? It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't seem logical that that's the way it was. To which, because it's certainly possible to make it exact. It was possible to make it exact, and your language implies exact. So why would you interpret it then to be inexact? To which Gemara says, "Amar Rami, Masisim Belot seems saying, don't stop." don't get overly analytical about this. It's not, you're not making a valid point. At the end of the day, says Ravami, you were not samseim. You're right. Could you have been? You could have been. Okay, is it possible? It is certainly possible. But the case is that you were not mitzamseim. You didn't make it exact. You made more airspace than you have pasal schach. Okay, more than the spits. And the case where the airspace was equal to the shvudim is not exactly equal to the shvudim, but rather benichnas v'yotze. It was a case where the shvudim once would come out easily because of the fact that there is actually a little bit more space than the width of the shvud per opening. So it's sort of like a little bit of a funny back and forth where, why not say it this way? No, it doesn't, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So sort of back and forth, yes and no, but that's the way Rashi learns. Okay, Taisus seems to take some issue here, but we're very happy with Rashi. Okay. So that's one answer, that it was loose, and it's not 50-50. The second answer is, im hoyu shvudim nesunin shesi noslischach kosher erid. If the shvudim were lying in one direction, let's say north-south, and the other ones, it would go east-west. Afilo hedif harevach, right? Even though the airspace wasn't more, irkaschach kosher fei, but you have more kosher schach than you have pasal schach. The given also eriv, because once you put in the other direction and you made it, counter, in the opposite direction. Right? You wouldn't be able to. It wouldn't be able to stand. It would fall right through. Why doesn't it fall right through? Because it's extending. I guess that's why I did it that way. Because each piece is resting on the board. If it's resting on the board, then it's going into the board and extending, onto the board. That means I have more than you. I'm bigger than you because I have the airspace. Plus, I have, the space on top of the board. Okay, and therefore, because I'm resting on you, I am more than you. I outnumber you. So, on the one hand, you might say, "Who cares that you're outnumbering me?" But at the end of the day, my schach is being supplied by 50% non-kosher shade, right? So that should negate the shade, and I should be 50-50. No, you look at the physical elements of what's covering you, and there's more good schach than bad schach covering you, so you're good to go. So it would come out, right, that if a guy if you're sitting, and I remember a sukkah somewhere in one of these houses where sort of like, there's an opening inside the house, and you have these things going across, and then all you got to do is just totally lay kosher schach over it. So even if it was 50-50, those boards going across, it would still be good, according to Rava's answer, because I overwhelm you, and I'm mavata you. Okay, which I think Taka is the halacha. I think that's Taka brought down. Okay. So we're 0 for 2. We try with 2 proofs towards.
It's interesting that you get credit for that part of the stock that's not able to actually.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's a chiddush. Correct. That's able to. Correct. Okay, so we tried twice to support Rav Papa against Rav Huna Red Yeshua, and both times Rav Huna Yeshua came back with an answer. Okay, let's try another one. Tashma, 2 lines to the bottom. Let's try this one. Shayara Shechon. So now we're back to that nice little caravan going on there with all the animals. Okay, that's what this is referring to. Right, okay, 222 again. Toshma, Shayorish Shechon, you got a caravan that rests in an open field, an open space, Vikifur Bigamalim, and you surrounded it with camels, Bukafois, and with saddles, Avitin, okay, which is, okay, we did all the Rashi and Amid Bay, so now we're on top of Amid Aleph. Let's just do some of these things as we learn the Gemara. Avit, and look at Rashi. Kar shetachas ukuf. It's the sort of the cushion underneath the saddle. Shetachas ukuf hagamol kedemetargaminon b'chol hagamol bavita degamla. Bekar hagamol bavita degamla. Okay, it's the cushion or the pillow of the gamol, and that it's translated bavita degamla. So you see, the ovid is like the cushion, which I guess that's you're looking at. Those are the bases. You got the Aleph, you got the Beis. I guess now we're ready for Gimel. Okay, what's the next one? B'shlifin, masuais, those are bundles, those are things that, see the Gimel.
Gimel, so it was the cushion, right?
Yeah.
Because base was the saddles, right?
Oh, so, right, so Gimel is the cushions, right, and the Dalet are the bundles, right, okay, we're up to Dalet, right. So Dalet are the bundles, Bekanim are the reeds, okay, I guess you have, you see them, those, flax reeds. Okay, but kulachos. Look at again. So shlifin is masuos. Those are bundles. Kulachos are kalche yerokos. Okay, so that's after the reeds. Rashi doesn't feel he needs to define reeds for us. But kulachos are kalche yerokos. These are sort of stalks of vegetables. Okay, so I don't know. You got big, vegetable stalks coming out of the ground. And you want to use them as walls. So you have all of these different options. Metaltalin, or all of them. You can any one of them or all of them together, as the picture shows. So metaltalin mesocha. You're allowed to travel and carry inside of it so you can, it's Rishus Yachid, so you can carry inside of that area. Uvad shloye ben gomol legomol kamal legomol, or ben ukif lukif kamal ukif. Okay, so it really wants to make it clear that you can't have exactly the same open space as you have the enclosure. If the saddle is 4 feet, okay, then you can't have 4 feet open space. So you can't have 4 feet closed, 4 feet open, 4 feet closed, 4 feet open, because that's going to leave you 50-50. And that seems to not be good. So what does this sound like? Now this sounds like the other way, right? This sounds like a proof to Eruvin Rebbe Yeshua, the 50-50 is not good. Because the Bryce is telling you that you can't have the open space as much as the closed space. According to Rav Papa, this should be perfectly fine. So what's going on? So here too, we're talking about a situation where, and this is, maybe a little bit easier, because why would, to hear, it's a smoother answer, because, these are makeshift situations. So it would make a lot of sense that it wouldn't be exact, that your opening would be slightly more than the closure. The closure is fixed. The saddle is fixed. The cushion is fixed, but the opening could easily be a place where it's like a little bit not equidistant, not exactly the same, and therefore that's why it's no good, because you actually have more opening than you have closure. Okay.
So what would? So it's not the 10 amos rule. It's like if you.
Nothing to do with 10 amos. 10 amos is one opening, right, so that's way too big.
But so saying if you're using saddles in that section, even if it's 6 amos between, let's say...
No, well, that's a separate psul. I mean, why would you go there? Why would you assume you got in another basic flaw in your... there's no 10 amma opening here. They're all less than 10 amas, but the problem is that...
So whatever you're using at that section cannot be wider. You can't have a gap wider than... Than
right.
What you're using.
Correct. That's right. 100%. More than 10 amma gap. That's
Right. Would but I'm saying like here though. I don't know. Would you have thought that if as tight as that all looks around, right? You don't have any gaps, right?
Right.
So if at one section in between what are the smallest ones? The saddles.
Let's say between the camel and between those stalks of carrots, right in the front, right?
Right. No, I'm saying I thought what they were just saying now was that you can't have a gap in between any of the objects larger than the objects themselves.
Right. There's nothing to do with 10 amas. This has to do with the whole idea that we're talking about the Poritz Golmid. So the Bryce is saying that if it's 50-50, it's not good.
You're now looking at each item that's comprising it.
Right. The total airspace cannot equal the total enclosure.
Right. Okay.
Which sounds like it's a riot to Rav Huna Bar Yeshua. It's a riot against Rav Papa. To which more answers, no, it's not, because it's hachanami k'shenichnas v'yotzei. There's more airspace because it's a little bit loose. It's not tightly measured, exact. The opening you left, is a loose kind of opening, which would allow the things to come out relatively easily. In which case, it's again weiter. You have more opening than you have closure. Okay, it's a good place to stop.